Greetings! 2014 had surprisingly many games released that interested me personally, some that tickled my nostalgia, a few awesome sequels to games I really like, and even a good number of promising new IPs. It wasn't easy, but after a lot of thinking I managed to pick and put in order my top 10 favorite games that I had the most amount of fun playing. I got to play almost all the games that interested me, but there were a handful that I just didn't have the time for. Games like Little Big Planet 3, Borderlands the pre-sequel, Shovel Knight, and unfortunately one of the most critically acclaimed games of the year, Bayonetta 2. At the end of the video I'll give quick honorable mentions to all the games that barely didn't make the list. We have a lot of games to talk about, so let's get to it. Starting off the list at the number 10 spot is Valiant Hearts: The Great War.
A heavy-hearted Emile was called up to fight and left the farm for San Miguel. Like so many others, he had no idea what fate had in store for him.
This was the second Ubisoft game in 2014 after Child of Light that was made in the UbiArt framework engine, which is what they used to make Rayman Origins and Legends. The art style in Valiant Hearts is very nice, just like in those games. What I was most impressed by with this game was the educational / historical side of it. As you find items or visit specific locations, you unlock real life trivia about them, accompanied with real photographs and everything. As someone who is interested in war history but doesn't know much about the First World War, all of this was very interesting to read through, and I learned quite a few things about the war and that time period in general from this game. The point and click type puzzle gameplay never got super hard, which was a relief to me. I'm not very good at puzzle games. You can get through the game pretty smoothly without ever getting stuck, and the mini games, the war trivia, and the great art style break up the monotony and bring a lot of flavor to the game. The characters are all very likable and the story has some pretty depressing and emotional moments, which are right up my alley. I love sad stories. The game really feels like it was a passion project for the developers. It has a lot of heart. I hope that Ubisoft keeps making these unique downloadable UbiArt games. I've really enjoyed them and recommend Valiant Hearts to everyone who is interested in war history or just good storytelling. Number 9 on the list is The Wolf Among Us.
I should probably go handle this.
Yes, please. Thank you. Furry prick gobshite.
Dad, the lights are shaking again.
What did I say? You want a big bad wolf to take you away?
No.
Then get the fuck back inside!
Telltale Games is awesome. I think they've really hit their stride with these episodic games. I wasn't at all familiar with the source material for The Wolf Among Us, so I didn't get it in the beginning. But after all the praise it got, I decided to get it when it finally got a retail release in November. I played all the episodes back to back, one episode per day for 5 days straight, and that was so much fun. The film noir style of The Wolf Among Us fits perfectly with the usual Telltale Games cel-shaded visuals, and that combined with the mysterious and gloomy soundtrack creates a perfect atmosphere for the game. I really like the world of the fables and all the quirky fairy tale characters, and I also like that the main character Bigby Wolf is a sheriff. Having authority over people forces you to make some really difficult decisions. Oftentimes it feels like there just aren't any even remotely ideal solutions to some problems, and you have to hurt some people to ultimately do the right thing, which is really tough. You can be a huge asshole if you want to, and I kinda was sometimes, and then the game made me feel bad about it and I regretted everything, but it was still fun.
How are you today, Mr. Bigby?
Fuck off, Buffkin.
I'm interested to see if Telltale decides to continue this series. I really like The Wolf Among Us, but I'm not necessarily craving for more. The other IPs that Telltale is currently working on are more intriguing to me personally, and I'd be fine if The Wolf Among Us just remained a great one-off game. I definitely recommend it to anyone who has enjoyed any of the other episodic Telltale games. Let's put it here. Coming in at number 8 is Child of Light.
Child, tuck yourself in bed and let me tell a story of Lemuria, a long-lost kingdom, and a girl born for glory.
This was the first UbiArt game of 2014 that I mentioned before, and the big thing that got me interested in this one, other than the gorgeous visuals from the trailer, was that the creator did an interview where he mentioned that the combat is heavily inspired by Grandia 2. That pretty much sealed the deal right there for me. I'm a huge fan of the Grandia series and it has my favorite battle system of any JRPG. Child of Light uses a more simplistic version of Grandia's timeline battle system, where the main mechanic is interrupting your enemy's attacks right before they do them. There's also a unique mechanic with the main character Aurora's companion Igniculus, where you can use him to either heal yourself or slow down your enemy's speed on the timeline. The battle system works very well here and makes the battles more strategic. The fairy tale-like story is very intriguing and goes to some dark and depressing places. It got me emotional at times, not gonna lie. All the dialogue is done in rhyme, which gives the game a lot of charm, and all the characters have their distinct personalities, backstories and goals. The game only came out digitally, but they still released this physical box for those who want this sort of thing. Thanks Ubisoft, I appreciate it. This comes with a code for the game of course, and an art book, and a keyring Igniculus that lights up, and this awesome poster designed by Yoshitaka Amano, a commission artist who used to do the art for the Final Fantasy games in the early days. Child of Light is a perfect bite-sized 10 to 15 hour RPG adventure that no fan of the genre should miss. At the number 7 spot lies The Evil Within.
You know how he thinks. What does he want?
Well, it's just a theory, but I'd say he wants us dead.
I love the live-action announcement trailer to this game. It reminded me of the horror movie Hellraiser, which is awesome. I basically decided after seeing that I would be getting the game no matter what. Then I found out that it was the debut game from a new development studio headed by the original creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami, and that intrigued me even more. The game is a full-blown survival horror game, very similar to Resident Evil 4. It has a perfect blend of great gameplay and creepy horror moments. The game is broken up into 15 chapters. Some go all in trying to get you creeped out, and others focus solely on the survival horror gameplay. There are some really fun boss fights that are big highlights, but then there are also those that are not so much fun. The story is kinda trippy and over the top, but it's a lot of fun to follow through to the end. The atmosphere throughout the game is pitch perfect. The visuals and the sound design are all superb, and the enemy and boss designs are all very distinct and nasty looking. The game has permanent vertical letterboxing on the top and bottom of the screen. This gives the game a more cinematic feel, and it supports the look of the horror movie-esque locations very well, but it does come with a price. Many times you wish you could have that little bit of screen real estate to see what's just below or above your view without having to rock your aim up and down constantly. It's a tough call whether I would have used the letterboxing or not if I had the choice. All in all, I was very impressed by The Evil Within. It's an awesome debut game for a developer, and I can't wait to see what Tango Gameworks does next. Also, a flying rat. Shining at the number 6 spot is Fantasy Life. Level 5 is quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite developers. For some reason they hadn't entered my radar until last year when they released Ni no Kuni in the West. That game was something else. Fantasy Life is their latest adventure to hit the western shores, and it is by far my favorite 3DS game of the year. The trailers to me made it look like it was going to focus on being an Animal Crossing / life sim style of game with some RPG elements, but I was very happy to discover that there's still a big emphasis on a grand progressing JRPG story. The 12 different lives in the life system are basically the game's character classes, and they allow for pretty personalized playthroughs. I only chose to use 3 different lives and it still took me 60 hours to beat the game. If you're a completionist and want to experience all the different lives with their unique quests and everything, I'm sure it'll take you over 100 hours, so there's a lot of content here. One of my favorite things about the game is the writing. There are many funny characters and the dialogue had me laughing out loud pretty frequently. The presentation in every aspect is awesome. The art style is very bright and colorful and it looks gorgeous on the 3DS. The music is done by Nobuo Uematsu, the father of modern video game music, who is best known for making the music for pretty much all the main series Final Fantasy games ever since the first one. The soundtrack is very upbeat and adventurous and fits the game perfectly. My only real gripe with the game is the combat. I wish it was a little more involved, it's a bit simplistic, but it does get better as the game goes on, especially in the DLC, so that's just a minor complaint. Overall, I think Fantasy Life is an incredibly well made and fun game to play, and every JRPG fan should play it. Racing to the number 5 spot is Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 is the best kart racing game I've ever played. Not necessarily my favorite, but definitely the most well-made one. The gameplay is like Mario Kart 7 but refined to perfection. The racing is tighter than ever, recovery time from falling off the track is much faster. The kart / bike customization really matters this time, and you can use it to fine-tune the way your vehicle handles to just the way you like it. You can no longer get a second item while dragging another one behind you, among other small improvements. The new tracks are awesome. Some of my favorites are Cloud Trap Cruise, Thwomp Ruins, Shy Guy Falls and Mount Wario. These and all the other tracks play and look amazing, and the selection of retro tracks is great too. I'm happy that my favorite character from 7, Shy Guy, stayed in the roster, and even got some new colors from the first DLC, Above and Beyond. Speaking of the DLC, they did a really good job on that. The new tracks, the music and everything is so good, and definitely worth the extra cost. I can't wait for the second DLC with Villager and Isabelle. Mario Kart 8 is the best looking game on the Wii U so far. The HD visuals are just breathtaking. The different approach to the music with the first ever fully orchestrated Mario Kart soundtrack is very cool and it sounds great. The online works pretty flawlessly, which is extremely important. I always had a blast playing online with friends and with everyone from the video game's awesome Turbo community. Shout out! The tournament feature is good, but I wish they would have also kept the communities from 7 and expanded on that. The only real criticism people seem to have for the game is the butchered battle mode. I wasn't a fan of that mode in the first place, I barely touched it in 7, so it wasn't a personal loss to me. Mario Kart 8, the best kart racer ever. BAM! Oh well. Number 4 is Dark Souls 2.
For that is your fate. The fate of the cursed.
The first Dark Souls is one of my favorite games of the last, 10 years or so. Naturally, I was quite excited for the sequel and fortunately it delivered. The gameplay, which for me is about 80% of the appeal of these games, is back as satisfying as ever. The sense of control you have over your character once you master the controls is once again unlike any other game I've ever played. As someone who did that mastering in the first game already, it's so enjoyable having the sequel challenge you with tricky new areas and enemies. The first playthrough is always the most fun when you have no idea what's coming around each corner. I love the careful and calculated gameplay approach you have to have for each new area if you want to avoid dying constantly. There are more bosses than before, and it's again a lot of fun to decipher all their attack patterns to be able to beat them while listening to the epic boss battle theme songs. Even though there was a huge fiasco with the graphics being severely downgraded from what was first shown in the gameplay reveal video, I think the visuals and the atmosphere are still fine. There are a lot of beautiful looking locations in the game. For the most part, Dark Souls 2 is a lot of the same as the first one, but there are a few things that make it not as good. The biggest one for me was the level design. It's much more linear than the brilliant world design of the first game with its countless interwoven paths. Another thing is the talking cat. Why is he smaller now? I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. With that said though, Dark Souls 2 still holds its own against the first game in most other aspects, and it's a great addition to the series. I can't wait to play From Software's next game, Bloodborne, in a few months. Number 3 on the list is The Walking Dead Season 2.
Do you know where we are, boy? A lot of help you are.
Telltale strikes again. The first season of The Walking Dead was a pretty stunning game, and it got me into these point-and-click Telltale games. This time you get to play as Clementine, and the stakes are higher than ever. The beginning of the season is pretty bleak and miserable. Being so invested in Clementine as a character, I found myself very worried about her safety, and it was extremely hard to trust any of the new characters throughout the whole season, which made the experience very tense. Many of the tougher decisions literally had me squirming in my seat. Very rarely does a game get this big a range of emotional reactions out of me. During this season alone, at times I was physically worried, yelling at the screen in anger, loudly cheering, or bawling my eyes out. Some complained that the writing wasn't up to par with the first season, but I don't know about that. I had just as much, if not more fun playing this as I did the first season. There was only one moment in the whole season that stuck out to me where they could have done a bit better. It would have only taken cutting a very short scene from the middle-ish of the second episode to fix it, but I can easily look past that. The excitement I had for each episode as they were about to be released was through the roof. For every single one, I was there on my computer, staring at the Steam icon, impatiently waiting for it to start downloading. Not a single episode disappointed me, but my favorites were 2 and 5. Those who have played them probably know why. I was especially impressed by the variety of different endings you could get in the final episode. The one I got was extremely rough emotionally. I loved it. I'm very excited for the third season and beyond. I think there's a lot of potential in the Walking Dead world to keep this going, although I wouldn't be opposed to an epic conclusion, whatever that would be, in the third season.
Darn. It was good while it lasted though, right?
Painfully barely missing the number 1 spot, coming in at number 2 is South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Well, here it is. The reason why humans and elves are locked in a never-ending war. The relic for which human and elf are willing to die. The Stick of Truth. Don't gaze at it too long, for its power is too much for mere mortals to look at.
I was hella excited when this was announced. It was everything I had ever wanted, ever since playing these games when I was a kid. These are all awesome, by the way, no matter what anyone says. I started watching South Park when I was barely old enough to read the Finnish subtitles to understand what was being said. I've never stopped watching it to this day, and it's up there as one of my most cherished TV shows of all time. The biggest selling point for this game that none of these games had was the heavy involvement from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It was their idea to make the game in the first place, and they worked on it full time for quite a while. Making the game an RPG and having your own customizable main character was brilliant, and the developer Obsidian Entertainment did a fantastic job making it all happen. The game feels like you've been dropped into the world of the TV show. Not a single aspect of the look, feel or humor of South Park was compromised in the transition from a TV show to a video game. The amount of references to the show is staggering. You only need to blink and you've already missed one. It's highly rewarding to longtime fans of the show, but in its core it's still just a good and funny RPG that anyone can enjoy whether they've seen the show or not. The Mario RPG-esque turn-based battle system is a lot of fun, but those who are more familiar with RPGs will quickly notice some unbalanced things in it. It's very easily exploitable. The game is of course hilarious, and the simple premise of the story quickly gets out of hand in good old South Park fashion.
It's time for your first quest, but first, please tell us thy name. You entered douchebag, is that correct? Are you sure you want to keep the name douchebag? Very well, douchebag. You will now choose a class: fighter, mage, thief, or Jew.
The way they connected the start of the game's story to the show by mentioning it at the end of an episode was awesome. Some of my favorite moments in the game are when you bust out Greg from detention. Mr. Maggie is so hilarious in that. And when you go to Canada, but I won't dare spoil anything about that. If you're a fan of the TV show and haven't played the game yet, definitely get to it. Not playing it is like missing out on a whole season's worth of South Park. Oh, by the way, this Grand Wizard edition is freaking awesome. Probably my favorite collector's edition of the year. It was extremely hard not to put the Stick of Truth at the #1 spot because of my love for South Park, but there was one game that it just could not beat. Standing at the top at #1 is my Game of the Year of 2014, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Holy shit. Honestly speaking, I was not super excited for Tropical Freeze. The original trilogy, specifically the first Donkey Kong Country, is one of my absolute favorite games of all time, easily in the top 5. But I was not a big fan of Donkey Kong Country Returns. I'm not 100% sure why, but I lost interest in it halfway through on the Wii, but I did give it another chance on the 3DS and beat it on that. It was good, but to me it just didn't capture the feel of the original trilogy well enough, and that's where Tropical Freeze succeeds tenfold. The game feels like a true sequel to the original trilogy, and it does everything a good Donkey Kong game requires right. I think the key ingredient Returns lack that this game has is the incredible music. David Wise, the composer of the original trilogy, returns in Tropical Freeze, and wow. Before this, he hadn't done the music for a major console title since the GameCube days. That was 11 years ago. I want to thank David. I know he's never going to say this, but I still want to thank him for returning to make the music for Tropical Freeze. Never has a soundtrack elicited such an emotional reaction out of me. Not only does every single song sound like it could have been taken straight from the original games, and that gives me the biggest nostalgic feeling ever, but they're all incredible in their own right. I was just going back and listening to a few of them while I was starting to work on this video, and when Seashore War started playing, it literally stopped me on my tracks. I just sat on my couch and listened to it multiple times over in silence. That song is so damn good and emotional, it's crazy. Without David Wise there is no Donkey Kong Country. A soundtrack does not a game make though, but thankfully the highly talented Retro Studios is there to fix that problem. The gameplay is some of the best you can get in a 2D platformer. You can really feel the weight of DK in its controls, and once you adapt to that, it's game on. There's no blame in the controls when you fail. I love that Retro didn't skimp out on the hard difficulty. Some of the extra levels are just brutal, and it makes it that much more satisfying when you finally fully complete the game. The boss battles are super fun and challenging too, and I like that many of them are pretty long. It was fun having the option of multiple different sidekicks, but I ended up using Dixie pretty much 95% of the time. She's by far the most useful, being able to hover upwards a bit after a jump. My favorite level in the game is Scorch and Torch. I think it was the first level where the music really hit home with me. It really exaggerates the sad mood of the forest that's burning down with its inhabitants. I know the penguins are supposed to be the enemies, but seeing that one penguin just pacing back and forth in the middle of the flames broke my heart. I could go on forever about this game, and I kinda have, so let's end it here. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is my new favorite game on the Wii U, sorry Pikmin 3, and dare I say is just as good, if not even better, than the originals. Heads explode. That about does it. These are my top 10 favorite games of 2014. Just imagine Valiant hearts at the end there. Like I said in the beginning though, I do have some games I want to give honorable mentions to, so let's do that. Here they are. There's 8 games, I'm gonna try to rapid fire through them. They're in alphabetical order, let's go. Bravely Default. Just wanted to throw this in here to avoid possible confusion. Here in Europe, unlike in North America, this didn't come out in 2014. If it had, it would be in the top 10. I can't wait for the sequel this year though. Destiny, the best co-op experience of the year for me. I love the strike missions, great gameplay, gorgeous visuals, Peter Dinklage. I'm not a fan of the 10-year plan though. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. I'm a big fan of the Diablo series. This is an awesome expansion. I really like the dark and moody settings of the new locations. The new character class was a lot of fun to play and the new bosses were great. Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn. Had a lot of fun soloing this. The gameplay is pretty standard MMO, but I liked it. The story was surprisingly intriguing. A really good game overall and an awesome collector's edition too. Hyrule Warriors. Really like the combat with harder enemies, and the strategic element of holding strongholds is a lot of fun, especially with the characters and locations from Zelda. The Last of Us Remastered. First time playing it, love the characters and the story. It deserves all the praise it gets. Naughty Dog is awesome. The reason it's not in the top 10 list is because it's a remake. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. Really good combat and a neat nemesis system. That's about it. Super Smash Bros. For 3DS. I'm not a fan of fighting games, but I really got into this one for a while. I like the unique mechanic it has compared to other fighting games, and of course it's fun battling with Nintendo characters. And those were my honorable mentions. What were some of your favorite games of 2014? Did you share any of mine? I'd love to know, let's talk about them. Next week I'm going to be talking about games I'm looking forward to in 2015. So until then, stay tuned for more videos and thanks for watching. Take care. Borderlands the pre-sequel, Shovel Knight, and unfortunately one of my most for the Final Fantasy games in the early days. The HD visuals are just designed by Yoshihiro Yoshitaka. hell? Shit. Standing at the top at the number one Standing at the top at the number one spot. I didn't realize that rhymed when I wrote it.